understand Republicans saying this is against the will of the American people. They voted for President Obama, who said this was going to be one of the first things he would do, and he has done the first hurdle of that tonight. So I think the American people was heard loud and clear. This was not some concept the president introduced after he won. He ran on this, and the American people won tonight because they got finally something from a president they voted for.
And the Reverend Al Sharpton went on to say this.
I think that this began the transforming of the country the way the president had promised. This is what he ran on.
Some would argue to socialism.
Well, first of all, then we'd have to say that the American public overwhelmingly voted for socialism when they elected President Obama. The president promised the American people health reform when he ran. He was overwhelmingly elected running on that, and he has delivered what he promised.
By the way, I would like the sentence, the American public voted for socialism when they voted for President Obama, isolated, please, and I would like it at my disposal.
I'm sure the Obama administration really appreciates Al Sharpton going on with Geraldo Rivera and saying that.
Yeah, well, he's telling the truth. He's telling the truth.
So CBS has some new poll numbers out, and this is gets to the nuts and bolts of why I don't understand this whole thing. I'm just confused by the whole thing. As Barack Obama stakes his presidency on this, and Nancy Pelosi marches down the street with the novelty-sized gavel.
Yes,
you would believe if you didn't know better that this is something that the majority of people want, but no poll shows that. And the latest CBS poll showed, it was taken over the weekend, 48% of people disapprove of the health care reform. Only 38% approve. 48-38. Now, when the president's given a speech about, reacting to the will of the American people, and, so many presidents have tried to do this, and now finally we have, way more people don't want it than want it. So that confuses me to start with. When they broke it down on some various things, will this help you? Only 20% of people said this will help me. 35% of people, 50% more than that, 35% of people said this will hurt me. And 38% said it'll make no difference in terms of their own health care. But only 20% of the people watching the president stand there and give the speech about, I did it, I finally did it, all right. Only 1 out of 5 people watching that speech feel like it's going to help them in any way.
How interesting.
Now, maybe you're in the camp where you feel like yours is okay, but you cared about the uninsured. I suppose there's...
Well, or you fear some sort of upheaval in your life that would leave you uninsured. This is perfectly legitimate. That's an issue. On the other hand, I've seen other polling that says, jobs and the economy is still vastly more important to people.
Yeah.
And by the way, this small business, National Small Business Association, whatever they are, I've got the email around here somewhere. They are apoplectic with rage, saying this is just going to crush small business and make it extremely difficult to grow the economy.
But getting back to just regular people watching this, did the Democrats, is this healthcare reform about good policy, or did the Democrats vote for it for political reasons? Only 35% of people said it's good policy. Almost 60% said it's for political reasons. Now, with numbers like that, it just doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense whatsoever. It makes sense on why you had 40 Democrats who are like, I don't want to vote for this, and no Republicans that wanted to vote for it. I mean, if you're purely going to go by the polls, it's clearly a loser. Clearly.
Yeah, I'd like to ask those people who answered the question in the poll, though, saying, well, it was for political reasons. Well, in what sense? It's a pig. It's a turd. As we discussed last week, I'm not sure it'll do him any political good. Although, if I may put on my further, into the future looking hat, it has to do with the people, once they get big government, tend to depend on it. And if you are the party of it, you will get reelected because you can scare people to the polls by saying Social Security is going to go away, this medical benefit, your drug plan is going to go away, whatever.
But do you think the poll numbers are going to turn around on this?
So it's long-term politics.
But when's a House member interested in long-term politics? They want to get reelected in November.
Because Nancy told them they have to.
But do they think it's going to turn around by November? That the public opinion will switch the other direction? Now, the president, I understand.
Seems unlikely.
The president can do things for history books read a century from now.
Right.
But if you're a House member, you just going to want to get reelected here in a couple of months.
Yeah. Well, I think Nancy Pelosi calls you into the office and says, Congressman Jack, please sit down. How are you? How do you like your office? Is it good? Is it working out for you? Good. Listen, I and the president really need your vote on this. We understand you got a problem with, I don't know, socialism or abortion or whatever. But listen, and it's just fair to you that I make this clear. You will never serve on any committee of any note. You will never get any leadership position. No bill that you even like a little bit will ever see the light of day, and you will not receive a dime from the Democratic National Committee for the rest of your life if you don't vote yes on this bill. Please, have a good day. Now get out. And they've got to bend. They got to bend to her will. And then those who say, well, Madam Speaker, I understand, but I can't vote for it. Then they get dragged to the White House, and the President of the United States gives them the same speech.
Yeah, and it took a year to barely get over half.
Right.
And so watching the media cover this, like CBS, I thought did a really good job. They opened right off the bat with these numbers that show that most people didn't want this and don't think it's going to help them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm watching ABC News, interviewing Nancy Pelosi, and Diane Sawyer's talking. People are calling you the most powerful woman in the history of this country, which she clearly is. But, I'm presenting this as if obviously everybody watching is happy with this. What polls are you looking at? Most people don't like this. Right. Wouldn't the question for Nancy Pelosi be, you passed this in spite of what people want. You must believe that it's going to help the country in the long run. Isn't that the best first question on this?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question.
Isn't that the only first question on this? It's just so odd to me. I don't remember in my lifetime a major piece of legislation passing when 60% or somewhere in that area people don't want it.
Right.
And hardly any conversation about that aspect of it.
It is fascinating.
It's weird.
Right.
It's just weird.
Yeah. In terms of the media, especially? Or just the national conversation?
No, all the way around.
Yeah. I think I stick with my belief it's a much longer term play. It has to do with the way they see, the way you get your hooks in people. You set the hook, you grow the government, you grow your own power, you get people dependent, and once they're dependent, you're assured of their obedience.
So, and the president's going to go out, and he's going to continue trying to explain this to people because he believes that if people understand it, because most people don't understand it. Almost 60% of people say they don't understand it. So he's going to go out and try to explain it to people, and he hopes that when people do understand it, that they'll like it better. But so far, the polling has showed, as I saw one political analyst on ABC News say last night, the more it has been explained, the less people like it. One, the more confused they get, and two, the less they like it.
That was very frank by CBS. I may log some time with Katie Couric. That's CBS News?
Somebody was filling in for her last night, but it was CBS
That would
News.
help. And the other interesting aspect of this to follow, I'm not sure how much future this has, but there are 13 attorneys general from various states who are going to file suit saying it's unconstitutional to force people to buy insurance. So we'll see if that gets anywhere.
What a
states' rights
What
action.
A weird deal. So we're going to see here in about an hour the signing ceremony, and I assume the networks will present it as if it's the civil rights movement that most of the country was behind and thought is definitely the right direction for the country. Whereas this is just the opposite. Most people think this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So why are we acting like most people love it? That's what I don't get.
It is, according to the USA Today, the biggest change to the federal government's relationship to its citizens since the creation of Social Security in 1935.
That's a pretty big deal.
But a very small number of people want it.
We'll see how it turns out, I guess, in November and thereafter. Odd coverage of the story, though. I guess because most of the media clearly likes the idea. I suppose that has something to do with it.
Or they just really, really like Barack Obama and really, really hate the Republicans.
I don't know. You can join us anytime at 1-866-331-TALK, 1-866-331-TALK. You are listening to the Armstrong and Getty Show and watching on the Bay Area's TV 50.